Welcome into this week's MLS Best Bets show. It's MLS week 4 or 5, depending how you look at it, but this is the 4th full weekend of MLS action. So let's get ready to make some MLS Best Bets and some parlays. As has been the case so far to start the year, we have several teams that have been busy playing in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. So let's just take a look at some of those teams. Columbus and Houston were playing on Tuesday. Philly was away in Mexico playing Pachuca. Orlando was away in Mexico playing Tigres. Wednesday we had Miami and Nashville playing. Thursday we had New England away in Costa Rica playing Alajuelense. And Cincinnati also on Thursday away in Mexico playing Monterrey. So some of those teams will likely be resting players. They've also been good teams to fade so far, being 5-11-7 so far, those Champions Cup teams. Also to note, last week the Philadelphia and Seattle game was postponed because of rain, so Seattle should be rested, though they do still have many injuries. And there's no RSL this week on a bye week. DC and Miami could be missing some stars as well. Benteke for DC missed last week with an injury, could still be out here. And Messi was subbed off midweek in the Champions Cup with an injury, and it is a short week anyways. He's likely quite possible to miss out as well. Now let's get into this week's best bets. If you enjoy these stats and the content, please give the video a like and subscribe to the channel to get more all season long. Let's start this first parlay off with New York City FC and Toronto FC. It was all home wins last year between these teams. It was Toronto 1-0 in MLS, New York 5-0 in the Leagues Cup, and New York 3-0 in MLS. No road team has won in the last 7 games between these two. Bets on over 2.5 have gone 5-1. This year, these teams have combined, though, for a slew of unders. New York is 2-1 to the under 2.5. Toronto is 3-0 to the under as well. The 0.7 goals per match in TFC games is easily the lowest in MLS. And New York were minutes away from being 3-0 to the under. They were up 1-0 last week, but they gave up 2 goals to Portland in the final 5 minutes and stoppage time. So they were very close to also being a perfect 3-0 to the under as well. Amazingly, Toronto is actually the only team to have not conceded a goal so far this year after a 0-0 draw and 2 1-0 wins, with each of those goals coming from great goals from Lorenzo Insigne. They also did it without starting keeper Sean Johnson last week, who was injured. He'll still be out injured this week as well. New York has won only 2 teams with less than 2 goals scored so far. They only have 1 goal scored. The other team is Seattle, and their results have been 1-0, 2-0, and then 2-1. Those being losses. In shots on target, Toronto has just 8 and New York 9, so neither team's putting up very many shots. Only Sporting Kansas City has a lower XG than Toronto's, 0.6 compared to 0.7, and New York's 2.3 XG is only better than 6 teams overall, so there's really not much offensively being created by either of these teams. Neither are scoring. This could very well be a draw, likely another under, I think 2.5. Historically, though, this has seen goals. Anything can always happen in MLS, but I think this looks like a very tight game. If you were betting it on its own, maybe a draw, maybe under 2.5 in a parlay. Super safe, under 3.5. Next up, going to the West, it's FC Dallas and the Vancouver Whitecaps. Dallas won 2-1 in week 1, home to San Jose, and they didn't have star players. They have since lost back-to-back 2-1 games to Montreal and the Red Bulls, so they are 3-0 to over 2.5 totals. Only 2 games for Vancouver so far this year, 1-1 with Charlotte and a 2-0 win over San Jose. So both of these teams have just 1 win, and both against San Jose. San Jose being one of 3 teams who have still 0 points. Last year was 1-1 in Vancouver and 2-1 in Dallas. It's been at least 2 goals in each of the last 15 meetings between these teams. And I see that happening again. Vancouver with Gold, White, Krylik. Dallas now have Ferreira and Musa in the lineup. Certainly there should be goals coming maybe from both sides. Going back to last year, Dallas has scored at home in MLS in 18 of their last 19. But then both teams to score is also 8-0 in their last 8 home games. So they're also conceding goals as well. 15 of the last 17 competitions for Vancouver have seen 2 or more goals scored as well. I think we could see goals from both, or at least 2. Let's go over 1.5 in the parlay, and we'll round it out with Sporting Kansas City and San Jose. Little is good about either of these teams so far. San Jose, as I mentioned, they're one of 3 teams with 0 points. They've lost 2-1, 3-1, and 2-0. The 7 goals allowed are only better than 2 teams who have given up 8, those being New England and Orlando. It's all draws for SKC so far, 1-1, 1-1, and 0-0 with LAFC last week. Their 1.6 XG is the second lowest, only ahead of Toronto. They do have players, though, capable of scoring, so perhaps that streak could end here. SKC scored at home in 13 of 16 in MLS going back to last season, and San Jose is not looking like they can keep anyone out of their net. They give up 6 shots on target per game, and they have 1 win in 14 going back to last season. And when these teams last met, it was 0-0 in the wildcard playoff game, with SKC going on to win in PKs. And MLS both won 3-0 last year at home. SKC's at home here. think they should win. They should certainly score to round out the parlay. We'll go SKC to score. Dallas, Vancouver over 1.5. New York and Toronto under 3.5 to come in right about even money at -102. And we'll do one more 3-game parlay here with Minnesota and LAFC kicking it off. Loon's games average some of the highest scoring games so far in the short start to this season at 3.3. After a 2-1 win, a 1-1 draw, and a 3-2 win. Minnesota's getting it done without Emmanuel Reynoso, who's been injured. But Pukki had 2 goals in Orlando last week, and his 12 goals since coming to MLS is second only to Cucho Hernandez in that time. Good company to be in. But Reynoso was in training this week. He could possibly be available this weekend to give Minnesota an added boost. Minnesota will also see ex-Man U assistant coach Eric Ramsey make his debut as the new head coach. Could be the new head coach bump, but Minnesota's already rolling without him, so hopefully he, for Minnesota's sake, just doesn't change too much. We've seen a little bit of everything from LAFC so far. A 2-1 win over Seattle, 3-0 loss in the snow with RSL, and a 0-0 draw with SKC last week. It was a 1-1 in Minnesota last year, but 5-1 LAFC in LA. There's been 2 or more goals in all 10 historical head-to-heads. Both teams to score a 6-1 in the last 7 as well. There's also been a whole slew of draws between these teams. LAFC is 2-5-0 in the last 7, but 4 of those results have been 1-1 draws. So if you wanted the 1-1 draw, that would pay off pretty well as well. If you go back to last season, both teams to score has hit in 9 straight games for Minnesota and also in 11 of 12. There's been at least 2 goals in 23 of their last 24 MLS games as well. This could very possibly be goals again, maybe 1-1, maybe both teams to score over 2.5. Minnesota at home, I think, can certainly get at least 1. Let's go Minnesota to score. The Galaxy and St. Louis City. It's another team whose games average 3.3 goals per match, that being the LA Galaxy. They have a 1-1 draw, a 3-1 win, and a comeback 2-2 draw with Nashville last week. St. Louis also has 5 points, and they followed the same pattern with a 1-1 draw in RSL, 2-0 win over New York City, and a 2-2 draw with Austin last week. The 2 meetings last year were both draws, 1-1 in St. Louis and 2-2 in LA. If you want to include preseason, LA won 4-1 against St. Louis and also 2-1. So there's been lots of goals no matter when or how these teams have met up. Galaxy's 6.7 XG is only behind Miami and DC so far. The 21 shots on target they have is tied with Miami for the most overall. LA's defense, I guess, is a bit better this season. It was horrendous last year, but they've still conceded in all 3 of their games, which makes both teams to score in Galaxy games now 12-0 going back to last season. In fact, both teams to score in over 2.5 is also 11-1 as well. So basically, you can see the pattern here, and its LA Galaxy games have just been wild, with plenty of goals usually coming from all over the pitch. They should definitely score here at home, and maybe multiple goals with Pugh, Joveljic, Paintsell, and Peck, all capable of getting on the score sheet and all looking well and good in the early stages of this season. St. Louis games have been seeing plenty of goals too so far this season, and if you go further back, only 1 of 18 have not seen at least 2 goals scored. They've scored in 5 straight. They've also allowed a goal in 8 of 9. In their short MLS history, they've conceded in 9 straight on the road and also 17 of 19 total road games. St. Louis also saw key midfielder Edward Lewin go down with a hamstring injury, so he should miss out here as well. I think we could very easily see goals in this game. The Galaxy should definitely score at home. St. Louis certainly capable of scoring. The Galaxy have not kept, they're not known for keeping clean sheets. St. Louis never keeps the clean sheet when they're on the road. We could see both teams to score. Both teams score over 2.5, possibly a Galaxy win. I'm going to go LA Galaxy over 1.5 goals, just in case they do happen to keep a rare clean sheet here. And we'll round it out with one of the 2 games on Sunday. There's just 2, and it's Atlanta and Orlando. Orlando was just in Mexico Wednesday, and they lost in the Champions Cup 4-2 to Tigres, and are now out of that competition. It's been a poor 2024 for them. They're 1-2-3. Their only win was against Cavalry, a lower tier side from Canada. They are likely a better team, a much better team than that record, but they have proved to be struggling to balance these competitions. They have a 2-2 draw with Philly and MLS, a 5-0 loss to Miami, and then a 3-2 loss to Minnesota last week. There's just 2 games so far played by Atlanta in MLS. It was a loss to Columbus, 1-0, then a bye week, then a big 4-1 home win with 3 Giacomakis goals last week over another tired Champions Cup team in New England. This rivalry has been pretty close, 2-2-2 in the last 6. Last year was 1-1 in Orlando, and Orlando won 2-1 in Atlanta. There's been 2 or more goals scored in 5 of the last 6. Atlanta has just 3 wins across their last 8 going back to the start of last season. in their last 8 going back to last season. But if you go back to the start of last season as well and only look at their home record, they're 12-4-3. They've scored in every single one of those games, and they've scored multiple goals in 13 of those 19 games. This could very easily be an Atlanta win. Same scenario as last week, playing at home against a tired team that was just playing out of the country. Atlanta could probably win. Atlanta will certainly score, in my opinion. Let's go Minnesota to score, Atlanta to score, Galaxy to score over 1.5, coming in at plus 139 odds. So there we have it. I've broken down 6 different games from this weekend's MLS action, put them into 2 parlays. Who do you see winning in these games or any of the other games going on in MLS this weekend? Leave your best bets down there in the comments. Give this video a like if you enjoyed the content, and good luck with all of your bets this weekend in the MLS.